So you already know what you're doing wrong, but somehow you're not able to stop doing it. You know you're drinking too much. You know you're getting angry with the kids. You know you should leave that relationship, but somehow you just don't seem to be able to do it. Now, there's a multitude of reasons going on that could potentially be going on. So limited core beliefs, things like that. But insight by itself is not enough to make change. And that's what this video is about. Knowing what you need to do is on an intellectual level, okay? But that is not enough to make changes. So how do we make changes, and how do we make sure that these changes last is the question that we need to answer. And in order to understand that, we need to understand something about the nervous system and about your psyche. So first of all, your nervous system does not differentiate between what's good for you and what's bad for you. It's a threat detector. That's what it's looking for. It's a threat detector, and it keeps you safe. Okay, that's its job as far as it's concerned. And it doesn't have this kind of conscious element. That's your mind that helps bridge that gap between the external world and the internal world, if you like. So the nervous system loves familiarity, because familiarity is, first of all, it's familiar, it's predictable, even if it's bad for you. There's no change needed, so there's no threat, because change always is perceived as a threat, okay? So it's like it knows how to play a certain script, so your nervous system's like, I'm cool with this, don't make any changes to it, even if they're good, because then I'm gonna have to reconfigure everything, and I don't want to, if you could personify your nervous system. The other thing to remember is your psyche, let's imagine it like a beach. And on a beach, you have tributaries running across the sand to the ocean, okay? Now, these tributaries, for the benefit of this video, are repeating patterns. So the water running into it is repeating behaviours, repeating patterns. And the more you repeat things, the more water runs its course across the beach. And there may be several different tributaries running across the beach of your psyche, if you like. And there, each time you repeat stuff, it cuts a trench. It cuts the trench a little bit deeper, a bit more water, cuts it a bit wider, cuts it a bit deeper. So your psyche, if you like, is like that beach. Think of it another way. The architecture of your brain is created through your behaviours and your thinking. So it creates the wiring of your brain. And the more you repeat certain thinking and certain behaviours, the more those neural pathways are reinforced by more neurons. Change brings around sometimes stress. Stress produces cortisol. Cortisol severs neural connections, which is a good thing, and it can also work against us. So now you have this beach. Now, if you change your behavior, you are effectively diverting water across a new flat piece of sand, okay? Now, that's not going to cut a very deep trench or a very permanent trench. It might even fill back in. So you need to repeat the new behaviours. You need to repeat the new way of thinking. And as you do that, you keep sending more water down new, fresh tributaries across the sand, and they gradually cut more deeper and wider trenches. Now, the old trenches become redundant. The old wiring in your brain starts to become redundant. The trenches fill in, the wiring disintegrates, the neurons are used up elsewhere, whatever happens in the brain. The point is that that old wiring is now redundant and no longer used, and you are creating new neural pathways, as I've said. Now, eventually, if you repeat your new behaviours enough, you keep reinforcing that new pathway, that new trench across the beach of your psyche, that new wiring within your brain, until the point where it becomes innate, natural to you. It becomes a new behaviour that feels like it's been there forever. Now, there's another missing key ingredient to change. So you've got your insight, you know what you should do, you know the steps A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Here's what I need to do to change these behaviours. The next thing that really kicks in is emotion, because you have the intellect, but you don't have the emotion. People are motivated when it's emotional. So desperation to leave a bad relationship, or you've met somebody who treats you better, and that's lit up a whole load of passion inside you, and you want more of that, and you're like, oh, I don't want this. So there's this emotional driver that kicks in behind it. It's the same with when you're losing weight or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. Maybe you're going to the gym to tone up, to improve your strength, you're training for an event. Maybe you've been shouting at the kids and not getting on with the family for so long that it's all become habitual, and now you're trying to make these changes, and you're biting on your tongue, and you're working out what your triggers are. You're trying to manage your stress, you're managing your sleep levels and all the rest of it, and it all feels like hard work. And then you get that first weekend where you have harmony within the family home, and you all go out for that day trip together, and everybody just gets on. And it's at those points, that first kilo of weight that you use, that time when you add more discs to your weights, that when you leave that relationship, or you start being drawn towards people who treat you a lot nicer, it's acknowledging that. That's the other key ingredient, the third one, if you like. So you've got insight, emotion, whichever that might be, passion, desperation, whatever emotional drivers behind it. Often people make changes when they're sick and tired of themselves. And then the last one is to monitor your progress and rejoice in your progress, even if it's incremental. Don't measure yourself against your end goal, because you will actually demotivate yourself. Don't measure yourself against somebody else, because you will demotivate yourself. Measure yourself against who you were last week, who you were yesterday, who you were last month. Look how far you've come. Think of it about the first time you're trying to save money. You know, it's really hard to put that first, I don't know, bit of money away each week, and you're forcing yourself to do it. You're making this conscious effort, but you've never had any savings. And after a month, you go, well, I've got a bit, but not enough. That's going to demotivate you. You turn it around and you say, I got way more than I had last month. I got way more than I had last year in savings. I'm going to do this again. I'm going to repeat. It's that rinse and repeat thing. I'm going to repeat and layer it and reinforce the behavior, reinforce this, because consciously I know it's good. It feels difficult. My nervous system doesn't like it. My brain doesn't like it overly. But if you measure your changes, you are going to start to increase your passion for what you're doing and the changes that you're making to your world and yourself. And to be honest, it really is that. So get your insight, your self-awareness to a point, and then make that promise to yourself. Make those changes. I'm going to do this no matter how hard it is. I've got this. And if I haven't got this, I'm going to find someone who can support me through it, through the difficult times, help me navigate certain blocks, etc., that I might have. And I'm going to change the entire landscape of my psyche, which has got all these horrible tributaries all over it, some of which I want to keep, some of which I don't. I want them to be disused, and I want to create new neural pathways and new habits and new behaviors and new ways of thinking and a new relationship with myself and the world around me.